Welcome to You Can't Make This Shit Up. I'm your host, Joel Hoxley. Your my co-host. Well, we're hosts. We can't say
I
this stuff.
know.
We always say
We're the
we're
hosts.
the hosts, and we're here at the Oxford Sports Pub and Secret Society. We have a special guest today. I want to get right into it because we don't have he doesn't have a lot of time with us. Please, Representative Smith.
Hey Joel, David, great to be with you. I know we've tried to do this a couple times with my scheduling, and man, I tell you, I almost messed up this morning. I was out on a bike ride. I'm a big cyclist and ride the Cross Seminole Trail. So if I look a little red, it's because I'm still cooling down from a 15-mile bike ride. But hey, I'm ready for the hot seat. But just as way of introduction to your followers, and I know you have quite a few of them. So I'm Colonel David Smith, United States Marine Corps retired. It's my privilege to represent the citizens of House District 38 in Seminole County. Was elected in 2018, reelected in 2020, 2022, and so just finished my fifth legislative session, which was by far my best session, with
Okay.
seven policy bills signed into law by the governor, and I went 20 for 21 of my appropriation bills into the state budget, and round numbers, all total effort, that's about $80 million back into Seminole County and for some of the schools and colleges and nonprofits and others that I've been able to help. So great session, and happy to talk about any of the bills that went through also.
Well, I thank you very much because you are my representative. I want to make everybody very clear. This is my representative here in Florida. Okay. So,
Yes.
David, you can start off because Democrats always lead the fight against, yeah, that's what you say, right?
Good morning, Representative Smith. I want personally to say thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you for joining us today and joining our community and speaking to us. I know that in my own personal experience with you, you have been more than generous with your time. You spoke the last time I saw you. You spoke at Orange County Watch, and you were very informative, and the conversation was enjoyable. So I just want to extend a big thank you, and hopefully you'll join us again on the podcast, and also at County Watch. We would love to have you back again. This, like you said, we follow our representatives, whether it's our home district or elsewhere, and you did have a very successful session. What was your greatest achievement of all the appropriations and bills that were signed into effect? What are you most proud of for your community?
Wow, I tell you, that's a tough one. Let me hit three real quickly in the amount of time I would answer for one. Tell you, House bill. I always try to run bills kind of focused on helping veterans, teachers, and our first responders. I want to make every session. I want to do something to help kind of those areas. So quickly, we passed House Bill 485, which creates Veterans Day health care. So think about it as Veterans Day care. We have especially Vietnam veterans that are getting older, maybe into the dementia years. And this now creates a state program through Florida Department of Veteran Affairs that draws down federal dollars that allows our aging veterans to get daycare assistant. Now, no veteran likes to be talked about like daycare, so we call it day health care. But that's going to help a lot of veterans who are isolated, need to get out. It's going to help their family members that might need a little respite care and get some time off. So that will be implemented this fiscal year, which started the 1st of July through the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs. That was House Bill 485. Tell you another bill that I've been working on for some time that we were able to do is I have kind of made it my mission also to work on prison reform, justice reform here in Florida. And I was able to get the Inmate Welfare Trust Fund increased it's hard to believe, increased from only $2.5 million a year up to $32 million a year. What that's going to provide is significantly more, obviously 12 times, drug and alcohol treatment for our incarcerated citizens. It's going to allow education opportunities to get a GED, associate's degree, but also job training in our 69 correctional facilities, because we've got 24,000 inmates a year that are coming back into our communities, coming back onto the street. And hey, we got a labor shortage here in Florida. So if we can treat their underlying addiction, which most have, and get them education and some job trainings, it's going to be, they're going to have way more opportunities to succeed and not reoffend. Because right now we have about, in 3-year period, about 24% reoffend and come back into our prison system and that are on the taxpayer nickel. So this is a public safety issue to reduce crime once they're released, and also a workforce issue. So we can get more people out into the workforce, because you'll still see a lot of help wanted signs, even, and a 2.7% unemployment rate. And I'll tell you, the other one was my interstate compact for teacher mobility. So that allows a teacher in another state to come to Florida, move to Florida, and go right into the classroom and begin teaching after just a quick background check. They don't have to go through the re-credentialing process and all that lengthy, because we've got a teacher shortage in Florida. So some people talk about the problems in Florida, and some of us in Tallahassee are doing something about it. And those are probably my quick 3 most proudest moments across a spectrum of issues impacting constituents in House District 38 here in Seminole County, and really across the state.
Thank you. Congratulations. It's phenomenal. I remember the last session. You were a little disappointed because you weren't able to bring in the dollars. The governor wasn't able to sign off on a lot of initiatives across the board, but it seems like made up for it, and is for the better for the residents and citizens of your district.
So, Representative, I get to call you all the names in the world because you're being called book burners. You're being called all these names. You've heard them all. The media doesn't like you guys. And we talk about your legislation session up there. Talk about these bills that have been so controversial.
Well, I tell you, it's almost all of the bills, as the media calls them, the culture war bills, and as you mentioned, the book burning bills. It's just, I can't stress enough for people to do the research and go read the bill. And when folks listen to your podcast, hear about a bill, like I mentioned, the adult daycare bill, the Veterans House Bill 485, go to myfloridahouse.gov, G-O-V, and read the bill. So these issues, whether it's the trans bathroom or the book burning and those kind of things, go read the bill, because what the media portrays is simply skewed. That's a nice way of me calling them, saying it's a bunch of lies, but I'll just say their perspective is skewed. And I'll tell you, I have read on online reports and even in our local newspaper, whose name I will not repeat, I'll hear them, they'll report on something and I'll go, wait a minute, I was in that committee meeting. That never happened. Their perspective is off on a tangent to advance a narrative that they have before the facts ever come out. So again, the selective or pulling some books off of the shelves that are age inappropriate, because there may be a book that a parent doesn't like for their 3rd grader, but hey, for a 7th grader, that book's may be fine. And so they'll challenge, hey, I don't want my 3rd grader reading this book. And It's one of those things. Not every bill is perfect. I'll be the first to admit that. But I'll tell you the other thing that your followers need to understand, that a lot of these challenges to these books, and there's been a total, what is it, like 8 million books in the world? There's been a total of 75 challenged in Florida, 75 out of 8 million. So it's not so bad. But a lot of these are being challenged by people on the left, and saying, oh, Uncle Tom's Cabin is racist, and it gets pulled off the shelf until it gets reviewed. And then the headline is radical Republicans want to do this, but it's actually being done to instigate problems and advance a narrative that's just not true. And it's the political gamesmanship. It happens. And most of these people are not your mainstream political people. These are not folks that I deal with in Tallahassee. They're folks that are on the fringe of the far left and the fringe of the far right. Because one of the things I tell people all the time, when I do a lot of public events, I like to do that one-on-one kind of thing, or out, me in front of a crowd, and I speak at anything, and people can contact me to come talk to their club. But I tell people all the time that Tallahassee is not Washington, D.C. Republicans and Democrats, we eat breakfast every day together. We eat lunch every day together. We hang out after work, and I have very good friends across the aisle. Just this year, I think 94% of our bills were passed in a bipartisan fashion. 80% of the bills that passed the House, at least 50% of the Democrats voted with the Republican majority. So we do a lot of stuff together. And every once in a while, and a couple of percent of bills, we vote on a straight party line, but it's not very often. We work on legislation to advance Florida, and I think we're doing a pretty good job.
David?
Representative, you stated before that you had a very successful session, and the Republicans, your peers, are in the supermajority, and they also reside in the governor's mansion. With great power comes great responsibility. For the agenda, your agenda for your community, what are you hoping to achieve? What goals that were not achieved in this past session for your district? What can you give us some insight? What you hope to do in the next session?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, you'll hear me speak, and I'll talk about in terms of House District 38, Seminole County, Central Florida. I use those terms interchangeably because we have so many regional issues. I can't just have a myopic view. I only care about people in my district. It really doesn't work that way. That attitude tends to make for bad legislation, because I'll tell you, it's very difficult to pass a law that affects Florida evenly, because Pensacola is not Orlando, Tampa. Orlando, Tampa is not Miami-Dade. We really almost have three kind of states inside of Florida. So we have to balance that. But I can tell you that my agenda hasn't changed since I started my first campaign for office back in 2017. I have always talked about the 3 E's. It's to grow and strengthen Florida's economy. It's to improve education, and it's to preserve and protect our environment. And I'm thinking I'm going to add in a 4th E, and that's going to be effective, because I've proved I've been able to do that. Now, to your point, we do have a supermajority of Republicans in the House and the Senate, and Governor DeSantis is a Republican. But I can tell you specifically in the House, and I'm pretty sure this is true for the Senate, we have a supermajority, but the Speaker of the House, Paul Renner, and President Kathleen Passidomo in the Senate, they've never used the power of the supermajority to cut off debate, to ramrod bills. Because again, with the supermajority, Republicans could pass a bill through both chambers and never even have to talk to a Democrat. But we don't do that. again, as I mentioned, Republicans and Democrats work together to advance legislation for Florida. And we're able to do that. So the speaker doesn't use that kind of power. And the other thing, he also guaranteed every rep would get an appropriation. I'm pretty sure every rep passed a policy bill, which doesn't often happen when you have not just a super majority, but a majority. But I'll tell you, it absolutely goes to the leadership of Speaker Paul Renner, who I am close with. He's, of course, I'm retired Marine Corps Colonel. Speaker Renner is a commander, United States Navy retired. So that Navy Marine Corps team is alive and well in the Florida House. But he's a great leader. President Pasadomo in the Senate, the utmost respect for her. She advanced her agenda this year for affordable housing. The speaker made his hit the mark with the tort reform, which is be the least talked about, most impactful bill that Floridians that will impact every Floridian family in our state.
Well, thank you. Well, we have 9 minutes. Hey, we got plenty of time. So I want to bring you. Tallahassee sounds like, it's a lot better than what we were hearing from the media. But you live in a city called Winter Springs, and Winter Springs has been a topic of ours a couple of times. I'm not want to bring you into the mess. What do you know about the audits, though?
I know what I read. Again, I often, when I go out and speak to clubs, I have to kind of remind people that cities don't work for the county doesn't work for the state doesn't work for the federal government. So these are completely different entities. I stay out of their business. One of the things that makes us effective and the counties and the municipalities is I don't tell them how to run their city. They don't tell me how to pass, statewide legislation. Everybody has their role and mission, kind of using some military terms. We can always say we can stay in our swim lane. They asked me for help. I've done appropriations for almost every municipality in the county. That's really my dealing with the cities in Seminole County or Orange County. I got an appropriation for the city of Maitland, not even in my district, but it was good for Central Florida. And then also dealing with Seminole County.
I was more thinking on the being a citizen thing, because I understand that you don't interact that way. That's not like you. But one of the things that really gets under my skin is we always say we're for smaller government, yet a lot of bills came out that took away municipalities' rights to do things. And you have a housing plan where they can actually put a building up without any city approvals. So do you feel that those bills that take away power from the cities? What I don't know how to ask the
overreaching.
Yeah,
too much preemption.
Yeah, I think I know the bill you're talking about, but I can tell you just you have to balance. I'm a big believer in home rule, where laws really closest to the people are best made. I'm honored to be. You're the first breaking news for you guys. I was just received a League of Cities award for my legislative work this past legislative session. And of course, the cities are the ones that were these municipalities. And the issue with building, and it goes back to, and I don't think it's without any city approval, because planning and zoning and comp plans, those are municipal issues. Or if you're in like an unincorporated portion of Seminole County, that's a county comp plan. But the state does not do development agreements. The state does not do planning and zoning. But there is an issue with affordable housing. In Florida, we just put $720 million into more workforce housing. And because it's a problem in Florida, I mean, everybody knows it. So what are we doing about it? So again, back to my earlier point, trying to pass one bill that affects every city and county equally in Florida, It's very difficult. And the issue comes down where you have, and I believe if I remember the bill through committee, you had some blighted areas in Jacksonville. And for some reason, I think the example that was used was like a railroad station, and you had a developer that wanted to turn it into, some apartments, some townhouses, a mixed use, because, the big theme is like live, work, and play in the same neighborhood. And I'm not talking about developments like the Villages, but where you have some blighted areas and urban areas that need to be redeveloped. But you have a city or a county that may have a, hey, not in my backyard, mentality. And that's oftentimes where the state has to come in and try to level the playing field, because we've got to build more housing. We've got 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. Seems like most of them are on the highway in front of me, but we've got to house them someplace. You've seen astronomical rises in home prices. That's starting to cool off, but you're seeing the congestion on our roads. So we invested in a historical amount to fund the 5-year work plan from FDOT, $13.6 billion. But I'll tell you, a smart thing that Governor DeSantis did that he was behind, that we also added $4 billion for infrastructure to accelerate, not more projects, but get the current projects done more quickly. Pay overtime. You may have to pay a premium price for concrete or rebar or whatever materials, but let's get some of these projects done, because we got people pouring into Florida because they are voting with their feet. From New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Michigan, and they are coming to Florida at 1,000 a day.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you just explained that housing thing so much differently. I feel like that's why I love my representative.
Right. And most of the inflation that we see here in Florida is coming from the cost of housing, which the representative said is easing a little bit. However, that is a major contributor to at least Florida remaining a little bit higher. As
David,
far as
I know you want to
inflation.
ask another question, but I want to know if you are interested in the farmers insurance.
Yikes! He brought it up.
I tell you, that's something I want to talk about, because there's another, I won't say false narrative. Jimmy Petronas, I love him like a brother, but he needs to do a little deeper dive on the data before he gets too upset. But like, if you want me to explain that, it's so farmers announced they got about 100,000 policies, and they're going to not write any more policies in Florida. And that's bad. I mean, we've passed legislation in a special session last December. To stabilize housing markets or home insurance markets. We did a couple of pieces of legislation this year that holds insurance companies more accountable to their policy holders. So we put some policies in place that are stabilizing the market, and it will be driving down rates. Unfortunately, in the special session last December, had we done that in regular session back in May, it would have had in May before hurricane season, we would already have seen rates starting to come down, but we didn't get it done. Then we had Hurricane Ian and Nicole. So those things got complicated. So the rates weren't coming down as quickly as we had hoped. And now, I mean, there is a chance that your rate will go up before it comes down. But the policies, the overarching policies where the state regulates the insurance markets, are in place and are beginning to come down, because we're cutting the frivolous lawsuits. We're cutting the assignment of benefits, which is outright just blatant fraud almost, from these fly-by-night roofers that show up, knocking on your door saying, hey, your neighbor's getting a free roof, I can help you too. And that type of fraudulent claim was driving everybody's rates up. But let's talk about farmers. So the headline is 100,000 policies. Yeah, But what they don't tell you is only about 6,000 of those are homeowners policies. And the policies aren't transferred, or the policies stay in effect through hurricane season up until February of next year. So there are some people being impacted, but not during hurricane season, which is what's being reported. And so, and the other thing that farmers did that's not reported is that they went to, I know of at least 6 other insurance companies, and farmers said, hey, we're going to drop these policies. Do you want to pick up any of the coverage? And to be able to offload that risk, because that's what they're doing. Farmers is making a risk reduction business decision that actuarially they need to reduce their risk exposure in Florida, and they're making a business decision. So I don't think CFO Jimmy Petrona should beat up on them too hard, because again, it's a business owner, farmers, that's making a decision that they feel is in the best interest of their business, their shareholders, their clients, that are they're making a business decision that's best for their business. And if you're a pro business guy like I am, you can't fault that. And so I think if we got more facts, and if things would be reported, people say, it's unfortunate that they're leaving the Florida market. I'm certainly disappointed based on the legislation we passed, but they're making a business decision. But longer term, the rates will be coming down. The other thing that people don't know, like, well, you passed this bill in December, my rate hasn't come down. Well, first off, we can't interfere. The legislation's not retroactive. So your insurance policy is a 1-year policy that we can't touch until you renew. So we're hoping that the policy does allow you to renew at a lower rate. However, because of the timing, it actually could go up before it comes down. But longer term, make no mistake, the policy decisions we have made are going to drive down rates, and I think it's going to drive down rates significantly. And the governor said as much yesterday, I think, at a press conference.
Representative, in an article that I read about farmers leaving Florida, it stated that they will not be renewing policies or taking on new clients. Is that for all of the remaining policyholders in Florida, or just the number that you discussed?
Yeah, it's a combination. Again, Farmers has a lot of auto policies. Mm-hmm. They've got the homeowners policies. They've got business insurance where people have umbrella policies so think about the whole insurance spectrum, and that's the 100,000. We don't want any insurer to leave the Florida market. That's why we passed the RAP fund, the reinsurance program that we passed in Florida back in the special session. Most people don't realize that insurance companies have insurance, and it's called reinsurance. So when you write that, $3,500 check, to your insurance company, I have USAA because I'm retired Marine Corps. So when I write that homeowners policy insurance check, half of that, the check goes to USA, and then USA, half of that money goes right out the back door for them to buy insurance. That's the way they have the catastrophic coverage. If the once in 100-year flood hits, the once in the 500-year hurricane hit, and there's different step levels of reinsurance. But what's been driving Florida's insurance market through the roof, or the homeowners insurance, has been litigation. It's the number of claims that people get, that a lot of them are fraudulent, and it's just cheaper for the insurance company to buy you that new roof than fight you in court. And now we've changed that on this assignment of benefits, where your guy who knocks on your door says he can get you a free roof. That's been killing Florida. And it's not the cost of the new roof that is the problem. It's the $200,000 that the law firm that sues you makes. And the homeowner knows nothing about that. They just think, woo, I'm getting a free roof, all is good. But the impact is not the cost of the roof. It's the cost of the litigation that gets tied up. And that's what we've already passed legislation to stop. And is that work through the market? Because I'll tell you, right before we did just this tort reform bill, the week before the bill went into effect, because the governor signed it immediately, 107,000 lawsuits got filed.
Yes,
Like,
that's true.
like in 1 week. It's
True.
because
Yes.
they see, it's, I mean, come on, look at, you can't turn the TV on without
you can't.
the insurance. You can't listen to the radio. You can't drive down the highway without the billboard lawyers trying to get you to sue somebody. And that cost of litigation is estimated by the Florida Chamber of Commerce to be about $5,000 per working family in Florida. Is everything costs more in Florida because we are such a litigious state. We will sue you at the drop of a hat. And that's the legislation that we passed that is going to cut down on those fly-by-night billboard lawyers.
Representative, I just want to make a quick statement. One of our clients here at J&W is a farmer's insurance client, and he was given notice about losing coverage. So we're going to keep an eye on this and see his journey through this particular issue. But thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Now this is you can't make this shit up, and what you said today is like absolutely incredible. You've taught me, how hard it is to put a legislation together that helps one city over another, and I've learned a lot. But now you live in Winter Springs, you got to give us an invitation to come to your house, sit by the pool, have this conversation all there, and then you won't be rushed.
Yeah, well, happy to do it again. Yeah, I've got a lunch thing to do today, and I'm meeting with the Association of Professional Mortgage Brokers this afternoon. So, I'm truly blessed. Have had a very successful Marine Corps career, 30 years, retired as a colonel. I got a nice pension from that. My health care is paid for. So I'm one of the few, if not only, legislators that really this is my full-time job. So if people need me to speak or come take a tour of a business or, hey, come look at this issue, I'm happy to do that. And my schedule fills up. And, a lot of times people think, oh, you get elected, and, oh, you're too busy to do this. No, I'm not. Call my office, email me. I answer my own phone. I answer all the emails I get, and if you've got a business you want me to tour, or school, or you want to talk about legislation or some issues, I'd be happy to do that. So I get to fill my schedule helping people. Because at the end of the day, from what I've learned now through 5 sessions, what's my job as a legislator? And I'll tell you, ultimately, it's helping people. And that's what gets me coming back. Just this week, I had got connected to a woman whose husband's a retired Army colonel who's suffering from Parkinson's. He's in the dementia phase, and the facility he was in couldn't take him anymore. And with a couple of phone calls, I was able to get him into a Florida Department of Veteran Affairs memory care unit where he can get the care he needs. And when they call you back and they just say, thank you so much for helping me. I didn't think anybody cared. And I said, that's my job. My job is to care, and my job is to help people where I can. And that's what gets me coming back. And I'm excited to having a great session. Looking forward to 2024. We're already racking and stacking bills of what we're going to try to move the needle. Again, we've got some more prison reform legislation. We've got another veterans bill. I will always be the loudest voice and strongest advocate for teacher pay raises, because until we get teachers up to the level that they ought to be paid, which is a lot more than they're making now, especially our veteran teachers, we're going to start every school year with teacher vacancies. And that impacts children's ability to learn. We passed a really good school choice bill, putting parents in control, but kids don't learn for 2 major reasons. When they come to school hungry, And we've got, free or reduced lunches now that handle most of that. Or they come to school and there's lack of continuity of the teacher, and they got a substitute this week and another substitute, and there's no, homeroom teacher. There's not that stable teacher interrupts their learning. So we've got to do something about teacher pay, so we can fill every teacher vacancy in Florida. And we're not going to do that until we pay, in particular, veteran teachers what they're worth. And we'll continue to work on starting teacher pay, but we've got a lot more work to do. And I'm going to be hopefully leading the charge on teacher pay in the 2024 legislative session.
Well, I know I don't want you to be late for your next appointment. So I want to say thank you. And we're going to just discuss a couple of things, to close up our show. But thank you very much, Representative.
All right, thank you. Anytime, you guys.
Thank you, Representative. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.